You are comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. I am back, and I am with a real old acquaintance from the Jackson Heights days, William Becker. Welcome, William, to our comfortably zoned airways.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. We'll reminisce a little bit about Jackson Heights. I just want to know, you live in Tennessee, and that's about as far from a Jackson Heights mindset as stereotypically as possible. What about Tennessee is more like growing up in Queens, New York, than one might think if, if they just didn't know anybody who lived in Tennessee from Jackson Heights? What are the similarities that we might not expect?
That's a tough one because I really don't know that there are any similarities. The area in which I live, which is a suburb of Memphis, is
right.
a typical suburban area.
Right, and so you don't have a corner candy store, Jack and Manny's. Am I taking that for granted?
That absolutely.
Okay, and a kosher deli on the corner, right? And the bakery on Northern Boulevard. What do you miss most about New York?
Probably the food.
Okay, so I covered the gamut of that. Am I right?
That's one of the disadvantages of living in the South is there really is no ethnic foods.
No pizza's not. We've talked about Frank's, and let's put this on the record for the YouTube audience to know and the world to know. Frank's Pizza was the best in the whole world. We at different times, you were a couple of years ahead of me, but we took the Newtown drag early in the morning and back in the early afternoon to Newtown High School from Jackson Heights past the 90th Street, Roosevelt Avenue, Frank's Pizza, and coming back, that was pretty good pizza.
That was our stopping point on the way home from school.
Right, and back when we were doing it, it was a quarter, 15 cents for a slice, big old slice too, and a styrofoam cup of Coke, which wasn't all that big, but it cost us a quarter, and we had good pizza in New York, and so I'm sorry you're not. I have pretty good ethnic food out in California. A lot of it is as good as New York, but pizza isn't. There's no replacement for New York pizza. And deli and what have you. What do you like about the South that you would that you couldn't go back to New York because of? In other words, there's something out of you. You've been there for a long time. What is really great about it before we start talking about how the dogs must be happy? You're into Greyhound dogs,
right?
And I want to talk to you about that, but I know the weather's very, very, very nice. What's it like today in December?
Well, I don't miss the real cold winter. We do get winter here. We get ice storms. We get some snow, but we don't get a whole lot of it. Today, I think temperature was in the 50s today.
Okay, pretty much the way it is out in Northern California too in the winter. 50s,
but
60s.
The whole pace here is much slower. You don't have the crowds that you have in New York. Like I said, especially because I'm in the suburbs, so right. It's not crowded. The average home in the area I live in are on quarter of an acre lots. Unlike Jackson Heights, where they were row houses, If any of your audience remembers the show All in the Family, that was basically the neighborhood we grew up in.
Absolutely. And there was Archie who said, well, you know, there, it's a pretty good neighborhood as long as you're home by a certain time and you don't get those people around you, if you know what I mean, dear. That's a little Archie. And Carol O'Connor went to Newtown High School, our alma mater.
Did he really?
I'd add. Yes, he did. And as did Don Rickles.
Don Rickles.
So, we grew up in a good, I think it was like a little small town within Jackson Heights, Northridge especially, our little community of 16 buildings in a 4-block radius with our elementary school and its schoolyard right in the middle of it.
Right.
And we were a small town where everybody knew each other's business. Mm-hmm. And yet we were literally surrounded by a New York metropolis that afforded us museums, 20 minutes away from downtown New York by subway. Mm-hmm. And there we were with the Museum of Natural Art, history, all, the art museums, the planetarium, the sports. And I think what it did, everybody that I know that was from there, we all have some sort of a passion in life. And your passion is your dogs, your greyhounds. Tell me a little bit about how that got started, because we're going to demystify owning greyhound pets and what it's all about. So how did it get started for you?
Okay. For a while, I was living in South Florida, and the last job I had while living there was working at a dog track. And that's how I got to meet the greyhounds. And as you get to know them, you realize that these dogs have more myths about them than anything else. They are probably the most misunderstood dogs there are.
Beautiful. Let's clear it up. First of all, their dispositions. I walked a greyhound at one of the local pet stores, and you greyhound owners do that. It's an adoption thing, and you go to the pet stores and malls and what have you, and you have people get to know them. I got to know a greyhound. Give me your impression of their disposition.
They are extremely calm, laid-back, loving dogs. They just want to be loved. They're probably one of the laziest breeds you'll ever find.
Right.
If you got a chance to walk one of them, you'll find, as big as they are, you can actually walk with a loose leash because they do not pull.
They don't pull, and they lope along. They just kind of mosey along, like they prance. They
stay right next to you. They've been taught how to walk properly while they're on the track, and they just want to be as close to you as they can. When we do those meet and greets that you referred to, and I run several of them a month. They're the kind of dogs that a perfect stranger can come up to them and start petting them, and they lean on you.
Wow.
They're just absolute love bugs.
And that's everything. That's the antithesis of the belief system of what people think of them. They think they're high-strung, that because they've raced, that they want to go out there every day, and you need an extensive backyard with all that. Not true, correct?
Correct. I get that all the time. When I tell people I have 5 of them, their first comment is, "Oh, you must have a huge backyard." And then I start telling them about people that I know that live in Midtown Manhattan with greyhounds.
Right.
They actually make good apartment dogs.
Wow. And I'll tell you what, if you want to attract attention, men or women walking down the street with a greyhound dog, you will. Those things are classy as fuck. I mean, right off the bat, and they have a grace about them. Like any athlete who has performed at a high level, one goes through the rest of their lives with a sense of themselves, a world-class athlete has a certain aura about them that they could be 85 years old, but you know that they played somewhere and they have, and that's just with the dogs. Tell me about the history. Your particular dogs, any of them, when they raced, you have the records of all their, how they did and this, that, and the other thing, or anything interesting about any of their performances, just from just to be interesting. Not that one dog is better because they won races, but you know what I'm saying.
Uh-huh. Well, when you adopt a Greyhound, you generally do get their racing record with them.
Okay.
So you can tell how they did on the track. Like I said, I have five of them, so each one is different. My oldest one, who is now 11 years old, actually raced over 100 races.
Whoa!
He is the epitome of laziness. I mean, this dog will not even stand up to eat. He eats lying down.
That's he's from the heights. Maybe he's from the heights. He has that sense of entitlement. That, come feed me. I'll eat in bed today.
Well, what I tell people is he takes his retirement very serious.
He's good at it, right? He had all the brochures. They probably told him, "Yeah, race fast in this race. I'll get you a guy who'll stand for you, just lying down and bring me the food and stuff like that." So obviously they get a lot of love from those who. I'm sure that the Adoption Bureau screens the people that are being adopted to make sure that they're copacetic and they. So you get that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about their lifespan. Is it increased or decreased because they raced? In other words, and they're big dogs too. Are they prone to anything unusual, hip displacement, that sort of thing?
Okay, I knew you were going to bring that up because everybody brings that up. They are probably the only large breed that does not get hip dysplasia. It's unheard of in Greyhounds, and it's probably because they don't carry that excess weight that other larger dogs do. They're very, very healthy dogs. The only thing they do get, and it's pretty prominent in them, is they get bone cancer. If they don't get that, and we're talking about, probably 30% of them do. So the 70% that don't, you can expect them to live minimum of 10 years, going into, I had one that lived to be 15.
Wow.
Like I said, my oldest one now just turned 11, and he still runs in the backyard when he wants to. If you saw him, other than his white face, you'd never know he was that old.
Yeah, that's terrific. Terrific.
12 and 13 is not unusual for them at all.
How did Greyhound racing get started? Was it in Florida or, what?
Funny thing about that is, in England they had what they call coursing races, where they would let a rabbit loose in a field, and they would time the greyhounds to see how quickly they could catch the rabbits. They would start the greyhounds at the end of the field.
Ah.
And back in the 1800s, the Midwestern farmers here in this country, were having problems with the rabbits eating their crops. And they remembered the coursing races from England, so they started bringing the greyhounds across to solve their rabbit problem.
Terrific. So
from that, they started the coursing races. As a matter of fact, General Custer had a whole school of greyhounds that he used for coursing that before he went to Little Bighorn, he sent back so they would be safe.
Wow.
They have a fascinating history. They go back to ancient Egypt. They have an absolutely fascinating history. But anyway, from the coursing, in the 20th century, they finally started racing, and they realized how fast they are, and they started racing them. But it started with the Midwestern farmers.
Okay, now, next thing that comes to mind is you've got 5 big dogs, and the maintenance of 5 dogs. You take them out two at a time? Some of them like to enjoy each other's company, so they're better on walks together, or can you take them all out? I don't know if your mate is into the same thing, or even if you have a mate, for that matter. But what's it like with 5 big dogs on a day-to-day basis?
Generally, I just let them in the backyard, and they, sometimes they'll run, sometimes not. If they decide to run, they'll do 1 or 2 laps, and they're finished for the day. Right now, I'm looking at 5 dogs sound asleep in front of me.
Really? And
every
you bring
one of
them
them
in,
around,
obviously, and you treat them like your kids, and they each have personality.
They're strictly indoor dogs. They can't take, because they have no body fat. They can't handle extremes in temperature, either hot or cold.
Okay, let me ask you about body odor, because I know whippets have no body odor, which I don't know how it is with greyhounds.
Okay, that's exactly correct. They're one of the only breeds I know of, because they don't have the undercoat that other dogs have, that when they get wet, they don't have that doggy odor.
So how about any downside that you can think of? Have you owned other dogs that you might be able to compare it to? I had a red Doberman at one time, and these dogs sound, my Doberman, again, the myth of them being hyper and this, that, and the other thing. She was a mellow lady, and she, you can't tell a book by its cover, and she proved that to a lot of people. Any downside to owning a Greyhound that you could think of in case there are people out there that are interested?
Okay. Other than the fact, like I mentioned, the bone cancer that they get, other than that, they're very, very healthy. Yeah. Okay. When they're first born, the whole litter is kept together through their training and until they go to the track. Once they go onto the track, they're living in a kennel with 60 or 70 other dogs. So when you adopt them, okay, that's going to be the first time in their life that, number one, they've ever seen a house, so they have to adjust to a home. But also, if you don't have another animal in the house, that's going to be the first time they're going to be alone. So some of them get separation anxiety because they've never been alone.
Basically, it's best if you're going to adopt and you have no other animals to adopt 2. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I've known many people who get one. The dog has separation anxiety. They go back, they adopt the second one, and it stops immediately.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Is there an 800 number that anybody listening to this might have an inkling? And I'm going to put it on the show description if you have one. And if you don't, I'll find one before I put the show up on YouTube, or that you might know of, an 800 number that you could just reel off, that people can go for information that can lead to their local adoption place wherever they are around the country, to say nothing of the world.
Okay, I don't have an 800 number, but I know if you look online and just look up Greyhound adoption, you can find your local adoption places.
Beautiful.
Getting information online is easy.
Yeah, and if they got to this show, they're online on some level or another.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's easy. First of all, we should give them a big round of applause for getting online in the first place. It wasn't something that was easy for me to do when I first got started as a dinosaur. Can you imagine having the computer when we were growing up as kids? Could you imagine how that would have changed our lives?
We didn't even have a phone.
Right. We didn't even have cell phones. We had 3 kids using the same, and parents using the same phone, and what have you. It was a black thing, and it was 100 pounds. And for the first time in my life, I'm really lately, when you see the technology that has gone down, wow, it would have changed it. But you know what? I don't think it would have changed our lives necessarily for the better. We were able to socialize where kids today, kids today, but I think there's a big socialization problem. I think the computer takes a lot away from it. And but in terms of accessing knowledge and what have you, unbelievable.
There are lots of websites that you can get on to get information about them. There are also books written about adopting retired racing greyhounds.
Any book that you would recommend in particular that you think is a great book, just off the top of your head?
Yes, there is. The one that was literally my Bible for the first couple of years I had my dogs. It's called Retired Racing Greyhounds for Dummies.
Ah, okay. So that's one of those.
And it is an excellent book about giving you all the what to expect in a retired racing greyhound, bad and good. And she gives you she talks about things that probably you'll never see, but there might be a 1 in 100 chance you could see it, and it's in that book. And
you'd be able to identify, and it would save you a lot of trouble down the line, I'm sure.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, a lot of adoption groups will require you to read that before they adopt a dog to you.
Ah, excellent.
Because they want you to know the breed first before they let you take a dog out. And most adoption groups will also do a home visit. We're very, very fussy about who we give these dogs to. Because we want them to have good homes.
That's good. See how, ladies and gentlemen, I find people with passion to interview, and I identify passion just from your voice. You love the dogs, you love the breed, and like I say, you're a typical Jackson Hyder. You got something in your head going on, and it's nice. Before I let you go, I think I might have mentioned this to you when we chatted the other day, that I want to tell the audience how your mother, who ran a bank, I don't know if she ran or she was a teller, the first bank account I ever opened, I was in high school. The first checking account was from the bank that your mom worked in on the corner of Northern Boulevard and must have been 89th Street or must have been 91st Street. 93rd Street. I don't remember the branch.
It was
Chemical, but I remember and I remember putting in $100, and my mother was there with me to open the account, and your mother explained that you don't really have $100 in here now because there were some charges. You had to buy some checks and stuff. So don't write a check for $100. Don't write. Mm-hmm. I probably went down to the luncheonette and wrote a check and gave him a check for $100, knowing that before it came back to the bank, I'd have the money in. I floated the first check I ever wrote in my entire life, and it worked, but it set the tone for a bad financial responsibility on a lifetime of bad financial responsibility. So the Beckers have had a very positive/negative influence on my life. That's what I wanted to share with you. And it's the Deckers, I know that.
Well,
did you enjoy the interview? Did you enjoy being on?
Yeah,
did I ask the question?
I would like to thank everybody for their interest in the Greyhounds.
Yeah, I would too. I'm in the near future. The next dog I have is going to be a Greyhound dog. If you're in the North Bay area here in the East Bay area, Northern California, they have one of those adoption centers right here. So if you're interested, it would be tremendous if you could at least look into it, because I think they're a great breed, and I think you explained them incredibly well. You were very interesting, and I hope you'll come back and be on these airs, Comfortably Zoned Radio, another time really shortly.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right, and let's just tell the audience what I tell the audience at the end of every show. I want you to keep your dreams wet, keep your humor dry, keep your kids out of recruiting stations, military recruiting stations. Just keep them away, because it's an economic war, and it always has been. All wars are economic. don't have your kids as fodder. So keep doing that, and keep your kids off the laps of clerics wearing dresses. And keep on keeping on. Have a great one. Thanks again, Billy.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
So long now.